Rain fell hard on the metal streets of the lower city. Neon signs flickered. Smoke rose from vents. People moved quickly under dark skies, their heads down, ignoring everything around them. In a narrow alley, behind a pile of trash bins, someone was lying still. She was not human. Her skin was a soft silver blue. Her hair was tangled and wet. Her body was thin, and her arms were wrapped around her knees. Her back shook with every breath. Her eyes were open but empty. Her name was Lyra. Lyra was an alien girl. She had come to this planet with others of her kind, but something had gone wrong. Badly wrong. Now she had nothing. No family, no food, no future. Her body was covered in scars, old ones, deep ones, fresh ones. To her people, scars meant shame. She was not allowed to show her face. She had been thrown out like garbage. People walked past the alley. Some saw her but looked away. A few turned their heads in disgust. One even spat near her. No one stopped until he came. Jaren was a human, a simple engineer. He worked on machines and old ships in the scrapyards. That night, he was heading home. After a long shift, his jacket soaked with rain, his boots making soft thuds on the ground. Then he heard a soft, painful sound, like a hurt animal. He stopped, turned his head, and saw her. At first, he thought she was dead, but then she moved, just a little. Her eyes blinked. Jaren's heart twisted. He walked slowly into the alley. "Hey," he said gently. "Can you hear me?" She didn't answer. He came closer and kneeled. She didn't move. But when he reached out, she flinched, pulling back with weak strength. "It's okay," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." Her eyes flicked up to his face. She didn't understand why a human was speaking softly, why he wasn't shouting or kicking. Her people told her humans were cold, selfish, and violent. But this one, his voice was warm. Jaren looked at her arms. He saw the scars. Some looked like burns. Others looked like whip marks. His jaw tightened. "What happened to you?" he whispered. Still, she said nothing. But her eyes were now watching him. Jaren took off his jacket, slowly, like showing her he meant no harm. He laid it over her thin shoulders. She didn't resist. The warmth made her shiver harder. "You can't stay here," he said softly. "You'll die in this cold." She looked away. Jaren stood up and offered a hand. She didn't take it. But when he stepped back and waited, she slowly moved. Every step looked painful. She tried to stand but fell. Jaren caught her gently. She tried to pull away, but he didn't hurt her. He just held her like someone holding something precious. "Let's get you out of the rain," he said. Inside his small home, the lights were dim and warm. It was simple: one bed, one chair, a table, and tools everywhere. It smelled like oil and metal, but to her, it was safe. Warmer than the cold alley, quieter than the streets. He laid her on the bed and brought a towel. She was shaking, still wet, still silent. Jaren sat in the chair and watched her. "You don't have to talk. Just rest," he said. She didn't sleep. Her eyes stayed open. She stared at the ceiling. Her hands gripped the blanket tightly. Jaren sighed. "I don't know your story," he said, more to himself than to her. "But no one deserves to be left like that." Her eyes moved to him. He saw her look and gave a small smile. "I'll make food. If you're hungry, eat. If not, just rest." She watched him stand and walk away. She didn't understand this human. He gave her shelter. His jacket, his bed, and now food? Without asking for anything? No one ever did that for her. Not even her own people. She looked at her hands, the scars. She hated them. They made her feel ugly, unwanted. She pulled the blanket tighter, hiding her arms. But something had changed. For the first time in a long time, someone saw her. Not just the scars. Not just the shame. Someone saw her. Asterisk when Jaren came back with hot soup. She was sitting upright, but her eyes were on the wall, not him. The blanket was pulled up to her chin. She hadn't moved much. But the biggest change wasn't her body. It was her silence. Her silence said everything. Jaren placed the bowl of soup on the table near the bed. He didn't force her. He just said, "It's not much, but it's warm." She glanced at the bowl, but didn't touch it. Jaren didn't expect thanks. He didn't ask questions. He sat back in his chair, quietly wiping the grease off his hands with a towel. The hum of a small heater filled the room. Time passed slowly. She kept looking around the room, studying it carefully. Her eyes rested on the small photo on the wall Jaren as a child, beside an old woman, his mother. He saw her looking. "She taught me to fix things," Jaren said gently. "Machines, engines, but not people." Her eyes dropped. She didn't want to hear stories. She didn't even know why she was still here, but her body was still weak. Her mind was loud. Every breath reminded her of her past of screams, pain, rejection. That night, Jaren went to sleep on the floor, giving her the bed. He didn't say much, just a nod, a soft smile. She watched him lie down. He covered himself with only a spare towel and closed his eyes. She didn't understand this. No. Chains. No orders. No cruel laughs. Just quiet. And kindness. She turned her head and whispered, "Why?" Jaren opened one eye. Why? Are you doing this?" His voice stayed calm. "Because someone should." She didn't reply again. But something shifted. In the days that followed, she started moving a little more. She watched Jaren fix an old hoverbike. He worked with focus, but talked to her while he worked, even if she didn't respond. "Ever flown one of these?" he asked. One day. She shook her head once. "They're fun. When they don't explode," he joked. She didn't laugh, but her lips moved slightly. A tiny crack in the ice. One afternoon, Jaren brought a clean shirt and soft pants to her. "I think these will fit better than a blanket," he said, placing them on the bed. "I'll step out." She hesitated, but when he left, she looked at herself in the mirror for the first time in weeks. Scars. So many. Across her shoulders, her arms, her sides. Some were jagged, some smooth and pale. She remembered. Each one. Every cut had a memory. She wore the clothes. Slowly, carefully. When Jaren returned, she was dressed and sitting at the table. Jaren blinked, surprised, but smiled. "You look better," he said. She lowered her head. "My name is Jaren," he said gently. "You don't have to tell me yours until you're ready." She stared at him, then whispered, "Lyra." He nodded. "It's a beautiful name." "No, it's not," she said quickly, as if it burned her. "Then maybe it just needs someone to say it the right way." She looked at him, really looked. Night, as Jaren repaired a small cooking unit, she finally asked, "Why do you look at me like that?" "Like what?" "Like I'm not broken." Jaren's hands paused. "Because you're not," he said simply. "You've been hurt. A lot. But that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you survived." She had never heard words like that before. To her people, scars meant shame, failure, dirt. But to this human, they meant strength. She turned away quickly so he wouldn't see her tears. But he had already seen them, and he didn't say a word, just kept fixing the machine quietly, kindly, like always. The room was quiet, except for the ticking sound of Jaren's old wall clock. Lyra sat at the table, her hands wrapped around a warm cup. She hadn't touched the drink. Jaren moved around in the kitchen, but then it happened. Her voice broke the silence. "Do humans lie about beauty?" She Asked so softly it was almost a breath. Jaren froze. He turned around slowly. "What? Do you lie?" she asked again, not meeting his eyes. "When you say someone is beautiful?" Jaren walked over and sat across from her. He didn't smile this time. "No," he said. "Not when I mean it." Lyra stared down. "At the drink again. Then you are strange." Jaren gave a small shrug. "I've been called worse." For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. It vanished quickly, but it was real. Later that night, the power flickered. A storm had started outside. Wind pushed against the windows, and thunder rolled in the sky. Lyra stayed close to the wall, watching the storm like it was alive. When the lights finally went out, she gasped. Jen lit a small lantern. "It's okay. Just the grid acting up again," he said. Lyra didn't move. He noticed her breathing was faster. "You all right?" he asked. She shook her head, slowly. Jaren sat on the floor beside her. "The storm. Does it remind you of something?" She nodded. He didn't ask what, but she told him anyway. Asterisk. "They came during a storm," she whispered. "The soldiers. From my own world. They said I had broken a rule, that I was tainted." Jaren listened in silence. "They hurt me, in front of others. Told them I was no longer worthy of being seen. Then they left me outside, with nothing, and everyone. Everyone looked away." Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. "I tried to cover the scars, but they kept coming. Each time someone found me, they added more." Jaren said nothing. His hands rested calmly on his knees. "You don't look away," she said. "Even now." "No," Jaren answered. "Because they were wrong." She looked at him sharply. "You weren't there." "No, but I can see who you are now." The storm outside roared louder, but the silence between them was deeper. Lyra sat down across from him on the floor. She pulled up one sleeve, showing a scar along her arm. "This one," she said, "was for speaking when I wasn't allowed." She pulled up the other sleeve. "This one, for crying." Then she touched her side. "This one, for loving someone I wasn't supposed to." Jaren didn't flinch. He looked at her gently. "And yet you're still here," he said. "Still strong." "I don't feel strong." "You don't have to feel it," he said. "You just have to be it." Something in her eyes changed. "I hated these scars," she whispered. "But now I don't know what to feel." "Maybe," Jaren said softly, "they're part of your story, not the end of it." That night, she sat in the chair while Jaren lay on the floor again. Before turning off the lantern, she whispered one more thing. "Thank you." Jaren smiled in the dark. "You're welcome, Lyra." Asterisk, there was a knock at the door, 3 short, sharp hits. Jaren looked up from his workbench. Lyra froze. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. She had heard that rhythm before. 3 knocks. Then pain. Jaren stood and walked to the door, wiping his hands. "Probably someone from the scrapyard," he said. Lyra whispered. "Don't open it." But he already had. The door creaked open. Rain misted in from the wind. Standing outside were 3 aliens in dark armor. Their skin matched Lyra's, but their eyes were cold and cruel. The tallest one stepped forward and grinned. Well, we were told she might be hiding with a human." Jaren narrowed his eyes. "You know her?" The second one, with scars across his jaw, smirked. "Know her? She was ours. Until she forgot her place." Jaren didn't move. "She's not yours. She's free now." The third one laughed. "No one leaves us, human. Not without punishment." Behind him, Lyra slowly stood. Her body trembled, but not from the cold, from fear. From memory. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Tirak." The tall alien turned toward her and smiled wider. So you do remember my name, Scar Girl? Jaren stepped between them. You're not welcome here, he said. Tirak's smile faded. You're protecting her? He asked, voice hard. A cast-off? A stain on our kind? Jaren didn't blink. Yes. They left after that, but not before one of them leaned in and whispered to Lyra, You think this human can save you? He won't even see the knife. Coming. Then they disappeared into the storm. That night, Lyra didn't eat. She didn't speak. She sat near the wall again, just like the first night he found her. Jaren sat nearby, keeping his voice calm. They're not getting you back. He said, I ran once, she said. And they still found me. Jaren looked at her. Then maybe it's time to stop running. She shook her head. You don't know what they can do. I don't need to, he said, because I know what you can do. Lyra looked at him, confused. You lived through them, he said. You survived every scar, every wound. That means you're stronger than them. She wanted to believe him, but fear is louder than hope. So just before dawn, she packed her things quietly. She looked at Jaren sleeping on the floor, peaceful, unaware. A human who had shown her kindness. A human who is now in danger because of her. She opened the door slowly and stepped into the cold alone. The bed was cold, the blanket untouched. The door stood slightly open, swinging in the early wind. Jaren's eyes snapped open. She was gone. And in her place, folded neatly on the table, was the jacket he gave her. He rushed outside, boots splashing in the wet street. The sky was still dark. Fog curled through the alleyways like silent fingers. The world felt emptier, colder. Lyra! He shouted. No answer. Only silence. Hours earlier, Lyra had stood at the doorway, hand shaking on the handle. Her eyes had filled with tears, but she wiped them away fast. She looked back once. Jaren was asleep, curled on the floor, his arm under. His head, peaceful. She whispered, Thank you, though he could not hear it. Then she stepped outside, alone. The streets of the city were waking. Shops opening, machines buzzing. But no one looked at her. She walked without knowing where to go. Her legs were weak, her thoughts spinning. It's better this way, she told herself. They'll leave him alone if I'm gone. But her heart felt heavy. It wasn't just the cold anymore. It was the emptiness inside. She reached the old train line that ran out of the city. No one used it anymore, except people who wanted to disappear. She sat by the tracks, hugging her knees, watching the sky grow brighter. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just waited. Back at home, Jaren was still searching. He checked the scrapyard, the alley where he first found her, even the hospital district. No sign of her. People shook their heads. Some ignored him. A few muttered things about filthy aliens. He ignored them all. He remembered her face when she first asked him about beauty. How her voice cracked when she said her name. He wouldn't lose her. Not like this. By evening, Lyra was shivering. Hunger pulled at her belly. Her fingers were numb. She stared at her hands, at the scars she once hated. She thought of Jaren, the way he looked at her like she was whole. I don't belong anywhere, she whispered. Not even with him. She stood, weakly. The world spun for a second. Then she collapsed. A soft voice came through the fog. Lyra. She blinked, barely awake. Lyra, stay with me. She opened her eyes. Jaren's face. Warm hands holding her shoulders. She tried to speak, but her lips were blue. He picked her up without a word. He carried her through the streets like she was made of glass. People stared. Some whispered. He didn't care. He just held her close, arms tight, heart pounding. Back in his home, he wrapped her in every blanket he had. He boiled soup. He sat beside her, never leaving. When she finally opened her eyes, she whispered, "Why did you come for me?" He smiled, tired but gentle. "Because you left without your jacket." A soft laugh escaped her lips, barely a sound, but real. "Thought I was protecting you," she said. "I don't need protection," Jaren replied. "You do." She stared at him. "No," she said quietly. "Maybe I just need someone." And this time, she didn't run. Asterisk. Snow fell like quiet ash over the city rooftops. The sky was a pale gray, silent and endless. Inside the tiny home, Lyra stood at the window, watching it fall, but not as a child might, with wonder. She watched like someone afraid the sky might swallow her whole. She pressed a hand to the cold glass. "Where I'm from," she said softly, "snow is a myth. Only the high castes see it. Only the pure." Jaren looked up from where he was fixing the heater. "Then maybe it's time you see it with different eyes," he said. Lyra turned. "Do you think I'm pure?" He met her gaze. "I think you're real." "That's better." Later that evening, while Jaren repaired a broken light outside, Lyra stepped out alone. Snow crunched under her feet. She wrapped herself in the jacket. He had given her again the one she'd once left behind. She walked slowly, touching snowflakes as they fell on her hand, dot soft, dot melting dot. She didn't realize how far she had gone. The streets were empty, quiet. The snow kept falling. Her steps grew slower. Her breath fogged in front of her lips. Then she heard it dot footsteps dot. She turned quickly. 3 shadows stood at the end of the street, dot T-Rack, and the others. "No more running, girl," he growled. "We warned you." Lyra backed away, slipping. "On the ice. You belong to us," said the second one. "You are scarred. You are marked." Lyra shook her head. "I belong to no one." She turned and ran. Snow made her legs heavy. Her body still wasn't strong. They chased her. She slipped. Once, caught herself. She kept running until she couldn't feel her hands anymore. She reached a frozen park. Fell to her knees near an old statue, breathing heavy. Heart racing. She closed her eyes. "Please." "Not again." And then a voice. "Lyra." She opened. Her eyes Jaren running through the snow like a storm himself. He didn't stop. Didn't ask questions. He pulled her to her feet and held her close. "Let's go," he said. But T-Rex stepped from the fog. "She's ours," he snarled. "You can't protect her." Jaren's eyes were ice now. "Try me." The fight wasn't fair. 3 against 1. But Jaren didn't back down. He took a hit, blocked another, swung a metal bar. He fought not like a soldier, but like someone who refused to let kindness die. Lyra, still on the ground, watched in shock. This human was willing to bleed for her, because she mattered. Police drones finally arrived, flashing lights cutting through the snow. The attackers ran. Jaren collapsed beside her, bruised, bleeding, but alive. "You came for me." "Again," she whispered. "Always," he said, smiling through pain. She touched his face, gently. "I think I see it now," she whispered. "Why you call me beautiful." That night, back home, Lyra didn't just sit near Jaren. She sat beside him, wrapped in the same blanket, not running anymore. Not afraid of the snow. Asterisk. Lyra stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. For a long time, she said nothing. She touched each scar gently, one by one, like reading an old map. And for the first time, she didn't look away. Jaren was in the next room, cooking breakfast. The smell of spiced eggs and bread filled the air. "Food's ready," he called. Lyra didn't move yet. In the mirror, her silver blue skin shimmered in the early light. The scars were still there, some long, some deep. some shaped like angry symbols from a past she never chose. But now, she didn't see them as dirt. She saw them as proof that she lived, that she survived, that she was still here. She stepped into the small kitchen. Jaran looked up and smiled. "Morning," he said. "You slept better?" She nodded. "Nightmares?" he asked. "Only soft ones." Jaran chuckled. "We'll count that as a win." She sat across from him, picking up a warm piece of bread. She took a bite, slow and thoughtful. Then she said, "They might come back." Jaran didn't stop eating. "Let them." "I'm not afraid anymore," she whispered. "I know," he said. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that feels full, not empty. Later that day, Jaran brought her something wrapped in old cloth. She unwrapped it slowly. It was a hand-carved mirror. The frame was rough, but polished with care. She looked at him. "It's for when I'm not around," he said, "so you can see yourself the way I see you." She looked into the glass dot, then back at him. "You always say kind things," she said, "even when I don't believe them." Jaran stood, walked over, and knelt in front of her. This time, he didn't smile. He looked into her eyes and said it clearly, without doubt. "You are beautiful, Lyra." Not because she was flawless, not because her scars had faded, but because she had stayed, because she had chosen to live. Lyra blinked. Her chest ached in a strange, warm way. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. "Even when I didn't see it," she whispered, "you did." Jaran closed his eyes. That's what love does. Outside, snow began to fall again, but this time it wasn't cold. Not to her. She stood at the window, wrapped in his jacket. Her scars, her past, her fears, they didn't disappear. But now, she had something stronger than fear. She had someone who saw her. And finally, she saw herself too. *The end.